Brr. It is cold in Minnesota today, which had me thinking about, should you buy a home in the winter in Minnesota? What are some of the pros and cons of buying in the winter? I'm Joe Schwartzbauer, your favorite Twin Cities realtor, and let's jump right into it. I'm going to lose the jacket though because it's a little warm in the office. All right, should you buy a home in Minnesota in the winter? Well, honestly, the answer that I will always give you is you should buy a home when it's right for you and when it makes sense for you. But I'm going to go over a few pros and cons of buying a home here in a Minnesota winter. First, let's get started with the number one, and it's motivated sellers. Anybody in Minnesota that is selling their home during the winter months is highly motivated. They would wait until the spring and summer months if they could, but there's a reason why they need to sell in the winter, which also means with motivated sellers, there's good opportunity to get some price reductions and to negotiate some pretty good deals in the Minnesota winters. Number two is reduced competition. Again, it's cold in the winters and we don't see as many people wanting to move during those winter months, so there's not as many active home buyers. So there is a much better opportunity of you getting a good deal on a home during those winter months. Third, now this is kind of a weird one, but you may get increased attention from your real estate agent. Now I will tell you, my goal as a real estate agent is to always make you feel like you are the only person that I am working with. That happens both in the summer and in the winter months. But if you choose to work with somebody else, know that when somebody is less busy, they've got a little bit more time, a little bit more attention, and you might get a little bit better service. Number four is it can be easier to spot some issues. So in Minnesota, one of the things that happens here is in the wintertime, we can actually get ice dams on our home. And the graphic will show you exactly what an ice dam is. Essentially when all the big icicles are hanging off of the house just due to weather fluctuating and getting warmer and colder, and the snow on the roof melts and then refreezes. Well, as it refreezes, it can actually, as we all know, ice expands when it freezes. It can get underneath your shingles, cause some leaks into the interior of the home if there's not proper insulation in the attic. So we can spot some of those issues. We can understand that insulation is not as good as it could be. So spotting some of those things can be much easier in the winter. Also, sometimes the grading around the home, like the slope away from the home. If the slope isn't great and things did melt for a bit, we could see pockets of ice sitting around the foundation of the home. And number five, this one is probably the number one reason to buy a home in the winter, is you can get a great deal on a home. Now I want you to take a look at this chart. This goes all the way back to 2005. We're not going to pay too much attention to this. There's a lot of turmoil in the market around this time, but let's go to 2012. We valleyed. The lowest sale prices that there has been in the past almost 20 years happened in February of 2012. Prices jumped up, and June, July, August, we will always see June, July, August having the highest sale price, and they jumped up and then they fell down towards the winter, bottomed out at January, peaked out at June, bottomed out in February, peaked out in June, bottomed out in February, peaked out in June. One more, bottomed out in February, peaked out in July. So as you can see, home prices go up substantially here in the summer months in Minnesota just because there are more buyers out there. Everybody wants to move in the summer. It's a little bit easier. So now let's get into talking about some of the reasons to not buy in the winter months. Number one is reduced inventory. As we talked about earlier in this video, there's a lot less sellers that are going to put their home on the market in the winter because they know it's a lower sale price. So we don't see as many homes available for sale. So there's less competition from buyers, but there's also less opportunity for homes out there. And you may not have 50 to 100 homes to look at. There may only be 15 to 20 homes to look at that fit your criteria. So less inventory of homes available for sale during the winter months. Second, winter weather can hide issues. So one of the big things here in Minnesota is we get quite a bit of snow. There could be snow covering the roof and you now don't have an opportunity to truly inspect that roof. our inspectors will actually fly a drone up, try and find a spot that doesn't have snow covering on it, which also is cause for alarm if there is spots that don't have snow, because that means there's not proper insulation on the roof. But there's also things like when the weather is cold, we can't inspect an air conditioning unit simply because it's just going to blow cold air no matter what. And then snow can be piled up around the foundations. We may not be able to see a crack in the foundation. Now, how many home inspections have I ever come across where there was large cracks in the foundation? It's very, very few, but this is one of the reasons why buying a home in the winter can be a little bit more dicey. Number 3 is curb appeal. Now, we can't really see what that home is going to look like in the summer. Hopefully those sellers have some good photos of what it looked like during those summer months so we can see what the grass looks like, if there's mulch, if there's exterior plantings, if there's flower beds, all of that. But during the winter months when it's covered in snow, we really just can't quite tell what it's going to look like. And if they had a dog, there might be a bunch of landmines sitting underneath that snow as well that you're going to discover in the spring. And unfortunately, those sellers aren't going to come back and pick those up. And finally, the last con of buying a home in a Minnesota winter is simply the weather. It's tough to move when it is snowing, when it is cold, when it is icy outside. Everything is going to take a bit longer to do. It's just a little bit more dangerous carrying those boxes into the house when everything's covered in ice. You know, I will make sure that I throw down some salt. I will be there for you to help you move in. But these are some of the pros and cons of buying a home during a Minnesota winter. Again, as I said at the beginning, buy a home when it makes sense for you, when your finances are right, when you find the home that you fall in love with. That's the best time to pull a trigger. I'm Joe Schwartzbauer. Thank you for sticking around for this. Make sure to stick around for some of our other videos as well. We'll see you guys next time.